I'm Chris Paff with Chris Paff Tech Media LLC here again at Northern Waves TV 2023. And I'm here with Robert Lura, who is the Metadata Integration Manager with Telenor, no stranger to this entire industry. And really what's interesting to me about what you presented here today is how you're building out the TV, for those who don't know, T-WE product as a hub. It's very interesting what you're doing, particularly around sports, which of course really has an outsized footprint in the streaming industry. So talk about your challenges, what you've been doing, and how that relates to the discussions here, which are really on, what's coming next for streaming.
Yeah, well, some of the bigger challenges in the beginning was, well, first of all, figuring out, do we have everything we need to build an actual sports hub?
Okay.
Right?
In terms of rights as well as the
technology?
Well,
rights, we had the rights in the beginning for most of the sports. So the rights were there. It was more the technological part in terms of the platform, making sure that the platform was able to support everything that we wanted to do. And then it was what I mentioned earlier in my presentation, the metadata part. Because for a sports page like this, having the right kind of metadata is critical. That was one of the biggest challenges in the beginning, just making sure that we had the metadata we needed and that it had the appropriate quality.
When did you really launch this?
We launched it right before the FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
Okay.
So it was last year.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's that new.
Yeah, it's less than a year.
Which is an amazing test bed and really trial by fire, I would think, to do that size event and really road test what you're trying to do in terms of capturing metadata, both for your own insights as well as for what you deliver, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, in the beginning, it was a tremendous amount of work because we needed to get this sports hub out before the World Cup started. And that was a tight deadline. We worked a lot to make sure that we were able to launch it before the World Cup. And we did that, I think, if I remember correctly, about a week before the World Cup started. That's when the page was out.
Right.
And it was not a smooth road. There were a lot of challenges. There were a lot of things that we hadn't thought was going to happen that happened along the way. And that we had to figure out, but we actually, we did manage to get it out before the World Cup.
Bravo, bravo to you. And I know that you've done some work with the Grace Note Nielsen team to understand how to try and capture, the intelligence and use what they're doing in terms of AI.
Well, for Grace Note, what we did with them was essentially a pilot of using their widgets. So they have widgets for statistics and I think a whole bunch of other things, but we used them primarily for statistics for the World Cup. And it actually worked really well. We decided to hold off on further developing the whole widget part of the page, but it's definitely something that will make sense for us to continue developing further down the road because we saw that it adds more functionality to the page just in having different content sections.
Right.
So we really want to try to create a page where users can go in and, of course they can find the games they want to watch, but we also want to engage with them in other ways. Maybe they go to the page to find statistics on their teams or their players or whatever it may be. So the plan is to try to do more than just having a place where they can come and watch.
And that's what I think is really exciting about what you've done is the engagement and that really sort of the interactivity that you can provide. It seems like you can build that learning based on obviously what you've done in the last year. And I think that going forward, it'd be also interesting to see is that something that you would look to maybe spin out of Telenor, or I mean, at some point, or do you want this to be really part of what your mainline offerings are?
No, it's definitely something we want to keep inside of the TV universe, to call it that. That's where we put all of our focus, and that's our main priority.
That's great. And I'm going to sort of jump to another question that's sports related, possibly more personal. Do you think that your sports hub can predict when Casper Ruud will win his first major tournament?
Maybe in the future.
That is the best possible answer. So let's talk about the future, since you brought up the F word there. What does the future look like in the coming year for what you're doing with this TV Sports Hub?
So I think in the short term, it's continuing to improve upon the metadata, like I was mentioning earlier with the images. We need to get images right. Different titles for the different events are important. So there's a whole lot of call it fine tuning that we need to do in order to get it where we want it to get right now. And then once we've managed to do that, then we want to look at maybe some bigger stuff.
Which is, again, what's fascinating to me is, and this is part of sort of my next question, or what we really want to discuss here, is that you're building this kind of from the ground up. You're not working with Getty Images or Shutterstock or other people necessarily on this. And from a Telenor perspective, I mean, this event really is celebrating, if you will, the innovation in the Nordics in TV, and we can list countless things, and particularly even in the Norwegian media cluster. Is it fair to say that what you're doing really comes out of that sort of DNA?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the biggest strengths that we have is putting everything in one place, right? I think that's where our biggest value to the customer is, that we can aggregate everything and put everything in one platform instead of them having to navigate to different places. And I was mentioning that earlier. I think we've seen that users that are interested in maybe one or two sports are now also starting to look at other sports that they may not have looked at before. And that is solely because we're aggregating a whole bunch of sports content into one place, right?
Yeah, and I think the user experience, user interface is such a powerful really skill that we see time and time again from the service providers here in the Nordics. And I'm guessing that you paid a great deal of attention to that from both the design as well as delivery.
Definitely. It's essential to everything we do. We have great UX designers that we work with that help us figure out what things should look like, where the images should be, what size they should be. So yeah, I mean, the user experience is core to what we do. It's always something we think about.
And with respect to sports, again, this is such a crowded field with regard to the offerings that have come out in the last few years, but it really looks like you're setting a higher bar, even in the Nordics, for what you can do with this kind of sports product.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, we definitely looked at other sports providers as well when we were trying to get inspiration for our page. There's a lot of great providers out there, and one of my favorite ones is Viaplay. I think what they're doing is great. And then there are other distributors as well that are doing great things on sports. But I think we're trying to focus on ourselves and see what we can do and see how far we can take this.
Yeah, and obviously the native intelligence within the market is key, but it's such a goldmine opportunity, but it also could be pitfalls. Netflix is starting its own sports, and of course you've seen how Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to push that even through Max. I still call it HBO Max. But what you're doing now, and I think between now and the Paris Olympics, would probably gain or get a stronger sort of leg in terms of where you go in the future. I think that's going to be very interesting to look at.
Yeah, I hope so. And I mean, I see the more we continue to develop the page, the more users are engaging with it and actually using it to find what they want to watch. It used to be before maybe they would just go to the EPG and find the channel. They know the game is playing at this channel.
Right.
But now we're seeing, because we've created this area, the more and more users are going through the actual page instead, which is great. That's what we wanted. And I think the more we keep working on it and fine-tuning it and just keep making it better, the more users are going to start using it. And the goal, I think, should be to create a whole experience where users see that the whole package that we're creating, not just sports, but with everything we're doing, is something that is creating a lot of value for them.
Yeah, and I think that's really where I'm going, because of course, much has been written in really the last 10 years of this battle in cord cutting around sports as being a bit monolithic. Oh, I don't want to pay all that money because most of it's going to the sports rights, blah, 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 which leads to direct to consumer. But you're almost using this in a way as almost like a Trojan horse. It's a very powerful attract to create greater perceptual value for Telenor itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, we all try. I think you've succeeded.
I hope so. I mean, there's still a lot of room for improvement within our page. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, and it will never get perfect, right? It's always room for improvement. Yeah, I think, the more we keep working on it, hopefully users will like it and keep using it and keep being our
That's great,
customers.
and it's great timing for you to be here at Northern Waves. And have you been here before?
No, this is my first time being here.
Great. And what do you think so far in terms of the mix of attendees? I mean, we've got, to me, this is really a very strong summit in terms of showing the strength.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's so far it's been great. I'm excited to see some of the other speakers and hear what they have to talk about. And hopefully I'll learn a lot.
Great. Well, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.